Hi. Okay, so I was just sitting here reading Revelation, and I noticed something very interesting. I was like comparing the churches, right? So I was reading the Loveless Church in Revelation 2, and something really stuck out to me. So it says, and you have persevered and have patience and have labored for my name's sake and have not become weary. And I'm like, where have I heard that kind of similar before? So in the Faithful Church, it says, you have little strength. Okay, so why would the Faithful Church have little strength and the Loveless Church have a lot of strength, and they're not weary and they're patient and they seem to be all good, right? And then the Faithful Church is the one that is wary and are watching, and I wouldn't say impatient, but it's nothing like the Loveless Church with the patience and endurance. It talks about little strength. Let me find exactly what it says. See, I have set before you an open door, and no one can shut it. For you have little strength, and have kept my word, and have not denied my name. So I just found that really interesting, how the Loveless Church is not wary. And I almost wonder if they're not wary because they're not watching. And the Faithful Church is wary because they're sitting there watching and looking at days, and they're wary because of it. I mean, why else? It's literally today. Like, I'm sitting here comparing all these churches, and it's truly today. It is wild. So the Loveless Church, it really, really reminds me of like the self-righteous, religious, modern day Pharisees, I would say, because it's saying you cannot bear those who are evil, and you have tested those who say they're apostles and are not, and you find them liars. But Jesus says, nevertheless, I have this against you. Basically saying, go back to your first love, and to your first works. And first works, I know it says works all throughout the churches, but it's all about going back to your first love, Jesus, to regain the original love that motivated them in the beginning, to help people do what the church is supposed to do. That's all about what Jesus is saying, not so much your works. He is talking about all about love here. Go back to your first love, your first works. What motivated you in the beginning? So yeah, I just found that very interesting. They're not wary. Why are they not wary? Because they're not watching. Why else? Because they're telling us, stop, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking about all I've got, you guys, the amount of comments I've gotten over the past week are insane. And they are crazy, talking about stoning and all this stuff. And I'm like, anyways. So yeah, they don't have love. Loveless Church. They're not wary because they're not watching. Why is the Faithful Church have little strength? Because we're watching. I mean, every person I see on a video here, they're like very exhausted, weary. They're like any day now. And every comment I see is the same. All of them. So yeah. Another thing, I wanted to read this. I got it from my church yesterday. So it's basically this paper. It's called A Church That Maintains Its Kingdom Fire. But the back of it really reminds me of today. And I just want to read this for motivation, strength, and to not get desensitized to these dates. And I'm not going to be like saying dates. I'm just going to be watching signs really now. But I will be honest, I did become desensitized to it a little bit. So I don't know. This is very encouraging. So on the back it says a call back to fire. Samson lost his strength not because he was overpowered, but because he was desensitized. Lot lost his family not because he hated God, but because he pitched his tent toward Sodom. And Jesus warns the last day church, you have a name that you are alive, but you are dead. God is not calling the church to be impressive. He is calling the church to be holy. He is not calling us to be popular. He's calling us to be prophetic. He's not calling us to be accepted. He's calling us to be set apart. Guard your heart, guard your doctrine, guard your convictions, guard your church, because the day we lay down our distinctiveness is the day we begin to die. Let's be the church that stays awake, stays bold, stays biblical, and stays ablaze. Let's be the church that never trades the presence of God for the applause of culture. Let's be the church that keeps ringing the bell of truth until Jesus returns. So I got that yesterday at church, and I find it very interesting that I just got that. And I was becoming kind of numb. Okay, I wanted to just talk about one more thing. I've been seeing so many comments on my videos too about post-trib rapture. And I just read the whole book of Revelation pretty much. And I was doing like a study. I was going back and forth through the pages. And these two verses really stuck out to me, that there's no way that we are post-trib rapture. Did I say post-trib revelation? I did not mean to say that. There's no way that we're post-trib rapture. So this stuck out to me. All who dwell, and this is after the seals and the seven trumpets and stuff. All who dwell on the earth will worship him, whose names have not been written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. That means all who are inhabitants of the earth during tribulation are the ones whose names were not written in the book of life. So that means all the unbelievers are on the earth, not the believers. And it says that that's Revelation 13, 7 through 8. And it says it again in Revelation 17, verse 8. Let's see where it is. And those who dwell on the earth will marvel, whose names are not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they see the beast that was and is not and yet is. This is saying believers will not be here in the tribulation. I don't know why people think that. It just doesn't even make sense. If we were here during God's wrath, he would be punishing us. If you believe Jesus took all the punishment on the cross, that can't mean that we will be here during God's wrath. That just doesn't make sense. And another thing that doesn't make sense is if the rapture's after the tribulation, okay, so we're going to go up and then instantly come back down with the Antichrist and all that. And then, so when is the marriage supper of the Lamb then? It just doesn't make sense. Okay, I just wanted to mention that because I've been getting so many comments like that. And I don't care about the mean comments. I just find it very interesting that the Loveless Church is not wary. Like, why would they not be wary? Because they're not watching. Why is the faithful church have little strength? And this little strength just started the past few months. I did not feel like this before all of this. It's because it's all happening right now. And all the signs, I mean, World War III is on our doorstep. Come on, guys. Everything, all the signs are there. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. Another thing I noticed when I was reading it, the 7 trumpets and the 7 bowls, I think they might be the same because they were almost all the same. And I also found that the first 7 bowls and trumpets seem to be the first half of the tribulation, because then after that, the abomination of desolation happens right after that in the book. And then the last 7 bowls come. I think that's the second half of the tribulation. So that's another thing I noticed while reading it. All right, that's it. Bye.